Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to week 8 of Advanced Programming with Java here at Portland State. We are in sort of the denouement of the course. We've covered all of the fundamentals, and between now and the end of the course, it's the most advanced stuff. It's the most challenging projects, also the ones I hope that are most interesting to you. And it's also probably some of the least structured parts of the course. And so then this gives us the flexibility that we need to use our time together as we need to use it. So tonight's going to kind of be, I think, a choose your own adventure. I've got a couple of ways that we can use the time. I want to make sure that we are covering the material that's most relevant to you. So we'll start off with some Prime Minister's questions. And then there's some stuff that I want to cover tonight. One, I want to talk about the Android assignment, Project 6. There's a space for mob programming. And then I also want to talk about Project 5, where people are at, and what people need to be successful there. So let's start out with questions. So let's see here. Project 4 was due last time. You got grades. That was the XML project. Any questions still open about Project 4? Any thoughts, any realizations that people have had? Yes?
This applies to Project 5, so I lost point 1 because
Yes.
my XML files had 1 index for the months instead of 0 index.
Yes.
Will that carry over to the Project 5? Do I need to fix that?
Likely not, and here's why. So I'm guessing that if you put in a date and into the system and then get that same date out of the system, it displays the same. So the TA is not going to know. Well, you lost points on that one because it was the pre-canned XML. It was like, someone else's XML that actually conformed to the DTD where, yes, it was supposed to be 0 base because that's what the Java API used. So no, I think you'll be okay. And so that also means that for Project 5, I'm not going to test with somebody else's XML because there's no file involved. I suppose I could set up like a HTTP server that always served up some static XML or whatever. I'm not going to bother to do that. Okay, good question. Okay, anything else about XML parsing? Any other thoughts? You have a question? Yeah.
I found it useful to uncomment all the project one or the taking in the date in the old fashioned way for the constructor, and that way you use whatever constructor is appropriate for the XML file.
Oh, okay. So then you used by the dates. Are you using that deprecated date constructor with all the? Or using something? No, or is this?
Because it was all just text, so it was hours, minutes, 24 hours, I could use the old constructor, and it worked, and it tested.
Well, you said the magic words. It works, and I tested it, so that's certainly good enough. Cool, good. Glad you were able to reuse some old code or recognize that. Oh yeah, that's a good place for the old code to be applied. Nice. Project 5, how's it going? Some people have already submitted theirs, and based on the questions I'm starting to get, people are still thinking about it. Right, POAs haven't been due yet; it's still not due for another week. I completely understand. Where even though we've had 3 weeks to do it, it's probably this week where things get most serious. So where are people at right now? What questions do people have about Project 5, the client server? Yeah.
So I've built the project and I've got all the other stuff kind of copied in from the original set of projects, but where's a good point to start? Because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of struggling finding which piece. I mean, you change one thing and the whole thing blows up.
Yep.
So kind of, if you have a recommendation on where would be a good place to start things?
The answer I'll tell you is with the servlet and doing a little bit of TDD on that, and then working incrementally to add a little bit of functionality to the servlet, and then expand that out to the REST integration tests and then the command line integration tests.
Okay.
One of the options for tonight is for me to walk people through that, if that's something that they want, to sort of start building it out a little bit. I'm seeing some nods, so maybe that's something we can pursue tonight. just sort of, yeah, see, because I've had people ask questions like, okay, I understand the dictionary example, but then what's that first step that I take? And that's fair enough, right? So one of the things that you haven't had to do in this class really is refactor someone else's code. You've used a lot of my code, but you haven't had to change someone else's code. And there's skills there. It's like, okay, how do I go from, you probably kind of have a good idea of what the end state is, and a good idea what the begin state, but how do you get there? And so I can spend some time showing how I would approach it and probably give you guys some ideas of how you might approach it also. Okay. Other questions on Project 5? Yeah.
I was just gonna say I would love to see more examples because I've done APIs in two other languages, but they're much more simpler, I felt, and not building off of these airline objects that have been built. So wrapping my head around the XML and how to have awareness was really
Okay.
puzzle pieces.
Yep. Fair enough. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like there is some desire there. That's good. The other thing that I want to be sure to talk about is the Android stuff. So how about I start there? I'll talk about the Android assignment. I also want to hear what your experiences have been for any of you who have tried to get Android Studio up and running. And it might be that another place to spend time is sort of getting Android Studio up and running for people. So let's dive in there. Let's talk about Project 6. And then figure out between Android stuff and Project 5 stuff, and then the kata, and then the mob programming, where we want to invest the rest of class. So Project 6. Okay, well, so one of the things that I've always done in this class is had a graphical user interface of some sort. Hey, it's the year 2002, and now we write software that has graphical user interfaces. And so I've evolved with the technologies that I've used over the years. It used to be like Swing, which is for writing thick clients, a Java program that runs there on a local machine. I spent a long time using a web framework called Google Web Toolkit that lets you write web applications with rich internet applications in Java. So it gets compiled down to JavaScript and then deployed to the browser. That was neat for a while, but we've outgrown that. And now, both last summer and now for the second time, we're doing Android development. So Android allows you to leverage not only your Java programming skills, but all of the skills that you've built up with regards to unit testing and integration testing and working with APIs and all this good stuff that you've learned. And now what you do is you get to apply that to building an Android application, a small device application. And so this is what your Project 6 is all about. It'll be taking the sort of the last step in your airline application, and you'll build an Android application with it, Android app with it. And so then, really, this is about doing something which I hope will be fun to learn not only about Android, but also some of the programming patterns it has for just building web user interfaces, or rather, user interfaces in general. There's some different styles of programming that you're used to, and of course, with Android, there's lots of pieces parts that you need to worry about, that you need to learn about. Things like that. So, as far as the assignment goes, though, it's you're going to be writing an Android app that does a lot of the same things that your projects 1 through 5 have done. So you'll be, creating airlines, adding flights. There'll be airlit, nice. There'll be, you'll be printing them. You'll be formatting them. You'll be searching them. So basically, all the functionality in Project 5, or at least all the user-facing functionality in Project 5, ought to carry over for Project 6. So as far as sort of the user interface is concerned, I want you to exercise your creativity, but you need to balance creativity with usability, right? So really, what we want is something that is usable, is understandable, but still, feels like a phone user or an Android device user interface. So there are some things like the ability to find out, get some help. You get a README menu item, or just README. I guess menu item is a good thing to to have. It displays information about the README. As far as error handling is concerned, please pop up a dialog box that describes the error and have a concise description of the error, not some big huge stack trace and something that you can't work with. Oh, and don't use pop-ups for displaying the contents of an error line. That just gets really ugly after a while because dialog boxes are meant to be a small piece of information constraint. So even though you can do something, part of the grade is usability. It's not prettiness so much as it is it usable? Can I understand it? Do I have to go to strange lengths in order to work with it? So again, use your imagination and creativity when it comes to designing a user interface. Explore what Android has to offer. That's really part of this assignment is really exploring the tools that Android has, the various widgets, and how you interact with them. Let's see here. A couple final things. Submitting the project is a little bit different because there are a lot of non-Java files. And actually though, maybe it's Java and XML. No, there's some PNGs and things like that. So I wrote a different submit program for the Android project. And so then when it comes to submitting, you'll use a different tool. And actually, give me a heads up before you submit. This tool isn't as well exercised as the plain submit tool is, and so it wouldn't surprise me if there's still a couple of bugs in it. But basically, you need to tell me the same information, such as who you are, your user ID, your email address, and then of course the code that you're going to submit. And then, of course, there's building and running the Android project. So over the weekend, or maybe it was Monday night or something, I threw together a little screencast that showed you how to download and install and do some configuration of the Android Studio IDE. For those of you who haven't seen the video, Android Studio is a flavor of IntelliJ that does Android stuff and does Android stuff very well. As a matter of fact, it's basically what people use to develop Android applications. So before you get started, please follow this link, review the video, and make sure that everything is working for you before you really dive in. Oh, I guess one thing, the Pixel 2 with API 29 emulator is what I'm going to use to test your projects. Please use that to develop your project, and that way you can make sure that everything that you see on your project will be the same as my project. There's a tool called Balsamic, which I think is a free trial for it that you can use to mock up your UI. It might help you design things. I was going to say you can attach your POA email. I may or may not read it. It's really mainly for your benefit. Let's see here. Oh, and there's a couple other things too. So, and I'm just going to review this now. Some of you might have done the reading or looked ahead and stuff to see what some of this means. If this is all Greek to you, that's all right. We'll be able to cover maybe some of it tonight, but certainly next week we'll dive into all of this stuff. I should survive. I have not. See, this is the thing about the new stuff in this class. There are little bugs and typos all over the place because apparently I'm not that careful. So one of the things that you learn about Android applications is that they can be sort of killed out from underneath you, or they can be stopped out from underneath you. And so then one of the things that a well-behaved Android application ought to do is persist information during these lifecycle transitions. And so while yes, there is a file system on the Android application, I recommend that you check out this, and I hope that link is still, oops, just opened a new window. Hope that link is still active. I didn't check out that one. Yep. Here's some information about how to write to the local file system on the Android device. Oops. That you can use then to persist your airline information. So one thing I want to give you a heads up on is, hey, how am I going to build and test it? Or rather, how am I going to build it and then run and test it? Basically, I'm going to take your submission, I'm going to, so please make sure to submit all of those files, including, which is different from your other projects. So so Android applications are built with Gradle, which is the successor to Maven. Please submit all of these files. These will all be built by by Android Studio when you create the project. Make sure everything builds from the command line, because then I'm going to build it with the command line, and then I'll launch the emulator like that. I'll install the application into the emulator. Then I will work with your application, and then at the end I'm going to uninstall everything from the emulator with that command. I'm telling you this is because this is what you need to make sure works for you before you submit, because that's what I'm going to try. So there's Android is just another order of magnitude more complex from the previous projects, but hopefully you'll find it to be an order of magnitude more fun and something that I hope that you will have time to explore and play with, because I think it is fun. I think it is something unique and different. Any questions there? Okay. So how many of you came to class tonight really hoping to get your Android Studio all set up? Yeah, a couple people? Okay, not many? Okay. How many of you have already set up Android Studio and are, okay, good. Actually, most people have. Okay, that's good. So then I don't think I need to focus on that. I don't need to present it and stuff. I do have that that video, and actually, I'll take that as a sign that most people were able to get started pretty reasonably and stuff. Okay, good. Last year, it was this comedy of errors. I was like, okay, let's walk through it together. And I had like 30 people trying to download like gigabytes and gigabytes of stuff over this over the school Wi-Fi. It was funny, and then either you laugh or you cry kind of way. Yeah, it was kind of a mess. Okay. Good deal then. Okay, so it doesn't sound like, as far as getting set up with Android, there's like a really big call for that. Maybe there are a couple people, and you can feel free to sort of try it on your own and ask me questions or ask another student questions if you have problems. Let's sort of do a vote. So in terms of like how we use the next, say, 45 minutes, who would like to, and the choices will be walk through some Project 5 stuff, or get started on the kata and then end the kata early. So who would like to talk about Project 5 stuff? Okay, about half the class. Who would like to do kata mob programming? Okay, well there's our first mob. Okay. Okay, so how about we do this? I talk loudly, so let's have the mob go back there to that projector, and you guys can get started, and you can do your thing, and then everybody else, there were a lot of you. If I'm up here, it's going to be really loud, though, and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me. So okay, no, here's what I'll do. Let's all huddle around. So let's all. I'll be at that screen. The mob can be over here, and maybe people can go back and forth as they engage or whatever. And so then I'll walk through Project 5 stuff over there. The mob can be over here, and if other people sort of want to use the other stations, free to do so. Make sense? Or yeah.
Are you going to screen record?
I will. Yep. And so then this will be. I'll put this stuff up. So for you an hour later. Sound good? Yeah, it's like a free form tonight. Okay, good deal. Oh, sorry. Do I need to walk through the RPN calculator? It's a calculator and uses this reverse Polish notation because it was terrible thing. I thought it was like a Polish joke or something. I was like, what the hell is it? No, it's actually the person who invented this notation was Polish. It's like, okay, but the whole idea is that you express a. Actually, do you guys know this? Have you studied RPN? Okay. Anyway, you need to make a calculator where it's like you give it input like 20 and then 5 and then slash, and that does 20 divided by 5 equals 4. Cool. Okay. I'm going to pause the recording and then move over there.
There is a method called get parameter.
Yeah.
it seems to be unclear whether you can get one parameter or whether you get a whole bunch of parameters.
Well, I think get parameter only returns one parameter, but you can have. Is there also one that returns like an array of strings?
Where
Oh, yeah, you can get. Yeah, I think you can get a map. You can get the parameter map.
yes, and then
Yeah.
the map associates strings with an array of strings rather than a single string. It's not a one-to-one map. And I'm just confused as to what that replacement looks like.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that. It looks like the projector is warming up. There we go.
Yeah, that's what the get parameter map is. And I found that out the hard way when I was testing it.
Okay. It's wow. This is warming up a little bit. Okay. What are some people's ideas for how they might approach the assignment?
Just thinking like get the command line parsing, because that's kind of easy to test first. Then servlet, and then finally the client.
Move everything together. Okay, so like yeah, familiar with the command line, sort of start that, and then have it call the. Okay, I like this. Sort of building it front to back, right? You're starting with stuff close to the user, and so that's the command line, and then saying the right thing to the REST client, and then implementing the REST client. That's a good way of doing it. Yeah, I suppose we could do it that way. Could we do it that way? Yeah. I was thinking about doing it a different way, where we write the. Wow, is this thing still warming up? Oh, it's running auto setup now. Here we go. Oh, it's a second screen. That is not probably what I want. I want to mirror, see what that says. Oh my gosh. Okay. That is. It's kind of readable. I need to make it a little smaller. I don't know. Is that okay? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah.
So I also like your suggestion of starting, the TDD again, and that's something we've been practicing on all the.
Yeah. So TDD. Yep.
If you'd be willing to give one example of that, at least I'd love to understand that as a launching point.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's what I'd prefer to do too, because as you guys point out, it's like, yeah, you know how to write command line applications. So I think that's a good way to do it. Probably what's new then is that servlet, and I know that like when I talked about how to unit test the servlet, it went by pretty fast. So maybe I should focus on that because it's probably newer to you. Okay, so let's do that then. Okay, so now let's start with airline servlet test. So so small. Okay. So I think as several people have pointed out, the main challenge here is that you've got this servlet that's currently implemented using this dictionary of maps to strings, and you need to change it to do something completely different. So, well, let's do that then. And actually, let me get the assignment up here. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Project 5. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. The first thing we need to do is to be able to create some data so we can query it. So let's work on the HTTP post method. So what do we want when you post to this URL? What do we want to have happen?
The do post method gets called.
Okay, and what's the side effect of calling the do post method?
It's going to store if all the parameters are valid, it's going to either create a new entry in the dictionary or it's going to add a new flight to the dictionary.
We want to add a new flight to the servlet system, or to the system. Yes. Yep. Okay. Let's write that test. Let's see what it looks like. So let's see here. Okay, sorry, that is the servlet. We want the test. Let's get rid of some of these other tabs. Here, we're going to need all that at some point, but we're not going to need the client just yet. Let's clean things up. Certainly don't need socket input stream, don't need HTTP request helper. Great, we don't need project 5 yet either. We just need our servlet and our servlet test. Okay, so let's go back to the test. And let's see here. Initially, servlet contains no dictionary entries. That's true, but that's not really the test that we want. So let's just delete that. I mean, everything's in version control. We can always go back. So let's take our test. Instead of add one word to dictionary, so let's see here. When, well, adding flight to server, to servlet, servlet stores airline with flight. Okay, so here, remember what these unit tests do. They use that Mockito API to create mock pretend servlet requests and servlet responses that ultimately get sent to your do post method. And so what we need is a unit test that will send in the parameters that we want. So let's see here. What are those parameters? First of all, let's see. We're going to have an airline name, and then we're going to have flight number, source, depart, destination, arrive. For the sake of making things easy to implement, let's just, for tonight's class, all I'm going to implement is an airline that has flights that only have flight numbers. I'll leave it as an exercise to the student, literally, to implement the rest of this stuff. But let's just do a little bit, because I think that will demonstrate what needs to be done. So, okay, so we take the HTTP servlet request, and this is that mock one, and we need to configure it to say, oh, here's how I want you to behave. So what we're going to mock is an invocation of the API with really just an airline and a flight number. Okay, oops. So let's see here. So when airline is when the airline, the mock airline at parameter is going to be, well, let's change this to be airline name. And then let's call it test airline. Sure. And then the, what did I call that? Number? What is it called? Flight number. Flight number is going to be, well, flight number. Oops. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to rename this. So Shift F6, I'm going to call it flight number. There. Okay. So I've configured the request. I've configured the response. And so then, okay, when we do the post, what side effect do we want to test? Well, we want to make this one is just testing that the airline and the flight were created. So we're not going to interact with. Yeah, we're not going to interact with the print writer. Instead, what we're going to do is the following. So let's see here, airline. I might not have an airline class. I need to create one. I think I do. Airline equals servlet dot get airline with the name airline name. Now let's create some stuff. Let's see here. It is not. I don't want to be in source IT. I want to be in source main. I'd love to add to get. Thank you very much. Okay. And I'm going to add a get airline method here. We'll implement that later. And then I want to say, well, actually, I want my airline to extend abstract airline of flight. Do I not have a flight class either? Oh, I probably haven't put those in this project. Which reminds me, one of the things that you need to do probably before you get too far into all of this is copy some of your domain classes from your airline into your airline. Yeah, your airline web. So I think all I need is the flight for right now. So I just copied that to the clipboard, and I'm going to paste it into here, into my airline web main source main Java. Yeah, make sure all that works. You all will want to copy, your airline, your flight, basically everything except your text dumper, right? Because you're going to need your XML dumper, your XML parser, you're going to need your pretty printer. Probably need some your command line parsing. So start with your project form, main class, and then evolve it accordingly. Or take my project 5 and evolve it. I don't know, whichever one works best for you. Okay, so this is going to be a flight. Okay, and now, oops, let me get rid of this so you can actually see it. Now I am going to implement the methods that it needs. Yes, all that good stuff. Okay, we'll come back and implement this in a little bit as we let the test blow up. So then we're going to do the post to the servlet and then ask the servlet, hey, give me the airline with that airline name. We're going to assert that airline is not null. And then we're going to find the flight. It should only have one of them. So the flight is going to be airline.getFlights. What does that return? A collection? Let's see here. I got nothing. I got like iterator next. Okay, and then I'm going to assert that the flight get number. Oh, interesting. Get number returns an int. That's nice to know. I'm going to turn that to a string. String.value of flight.get number equal to the flight number. So I want to change that a little bit. I do want my flight number to be an int. That makes more sense. 1, 2, 3. And so now here I want this to return the string .value of. And now here I don't want to. Oops. String.value of. I just want this. There, that's happy. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. So all this makes sense so far. So to reiterate, the test that I'm setting up is exactly what we were talking about before. It's saying I'm going to invoke the doPost method with an airline and flight number parameter, and then I expect that to create an airline with that flight. And so then I'm going to validate that by using this getAirline method. And this is just a plain old method on my servlet. I'll have to, I've added it. I'll have to implement it here in a minute. And make sure that, yes, it returns an airline with that name. And then it goes and gets the first flight in the collection and asserts that, yep, its flight number is the one that I expect. So that's the test that we need to make pass. So let's run it and see how badly it blows up. Oh, it can't. Oh, interesting. Couldn't find flight. Wonder why not. It says it can find it. Well, that part of IntelliJ can. Why doesn't this? Sorry, what? Yeah, right. Yeah, is clean the right thing to do? Where is that in the right place? It's right next to the airline servlet. Should be able to find it. Is that the package that it should be in? That's the package it should be in. Huh, what doesn't it like? Cannot find symbol. Yeah, let's try clean. That's not the right. There we go. Maven W clean. Maven W package. Actually, Maven W compile. Okay, that's IntelliJ, you're breaking my heart here. Why can't you? Okay, now it was fine. Okay, I don't understand. So now we'll go back to run. Oops, that's not the thing we want to run. Never got that far. We want this one to run. Okay, blew up here because, yep, when we called getAirline, it returns null. So then, okay, so now we got to figure out how to implement this method. Okay, how do we implement getAirline? Yeah, that's a good point. We could just create. Well, yeah, it's not really where we want to create it though, right? You don't want to because we don't. You really shouldn't. Yeah, we could create a new one, but we don't want to create here because we need to add the flight information. So maybe I'm skipping ahead here, but basically what you want to do is you want to replace the dictionary functionality with the database, the bunch of airlines that have been created. So I'm going to rename this to airlines. This is where I want to make sure that we're actually recording all of this, which I can't tell. How am I going to do that? I am recording this, right? How can I tell? Wow, let's go back to maybe the Finder. What has the fewest number of menu items? Terminal? So many. Right, I mean, you see the problem is that I don't have all of my icons in my taskbar because the resolution's so awful. I just want to make sure that I'm recording it. What is it? It's Option Shift 2. Thanks for bearing with me with that sanity check. I think future you who's going to go back and watch this again will appreciate it. Okay, so now instead of having a map of a string of airlines, a dictionary, now it's going to be airlines, and of course I want to change this to be a string to airlines. This will be the name of the airline that is mapped to the airline object itself. And this will break all sorts of things. So let's see here. Okay, so here is a place where I need to fix that. So let's just go ahead and fix that, I guess. Okay. So this is the do-post method. This is someplace we wanted to change anyway. So then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say, hey, I'm going to return, well, yeah, it might return XML. You can change the MIME type if you want. But now instead of getting word and definition, we're going to get the two parameters that were passed in, which was the airline name. So I'm going to rename this airline name parameter, sure. And this will be the airline name, which is required. And then instead of definition, it's going to be a flight number. Oops. HT number parameter. Change that to flight number. This will do all of that. And now, oops, don't want the German spelling. There we go. Okay, so airline. When I get the airline parameter and figure out that it's null, I want to get the airline object. So I am going to say get or create airline, and with the airline name. And we will implement that in a moment. Got the airline and the flight number. So now, what am I going to do? I'm going to create a new flight. Flight equals new flight. The flight has the airline number, which of course needs to be an int. So I will say int flight number equals integer dot parseInt flight number. Oh wait, I have two flight numbers, don't I? Oh bother. Okay. I'll just say this integer. I'll just say integer dot parseInt flight number. Yes, doesn't have that constructor. I will create that constructor. Flight number. And now I will airline.addFlight. Okay, I'm not going to have it write anything to the print writer just yet. Nah, I'll leave that in there. It'll be fine. What doesn't it like here? May produce a null pointer exception. Yes, it might. Why might it actually? Because it knows that this will return null. Thanks, IntelliJ. That's fine. Okay, so this is right. This is kind of what we want to do in the post method, right? We want to extract the parameters that we care about, and then we're going to get the airline because it might already exist. So get or create it, then add the flight. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's run our test again because it's been long enough that I've forgotten where I was. I'll run the test again. Oh, it blows up because things aren't compiling. Ah, yeah, right definition. What is this? This is the servlet still. I don't think I even want this. Well, this. Oh, okay, this is actually kind of the equivalent of pretty printing. I'm just gonna blow this method away. We can. We will do this differently later. So a lot of that logic doesn't apply. Write all dictionary entries. Again, I don't think this is going to really apply to us. Get parameter will. Get definition. No one. See how IntelliJ grays it out because no one's using it anymore, so I will delete it. Be gone. What else doesn't it like? Got some red up here because I just deleted all that stuff in do get. That is true. So we'll need to accommodate all of that. Okay, and now anything else that's red does not seem to be. So we will try building again. Everything built. We will try running our test again. We'll run our test again. Everything built, but still gets a null pointer exception, probably because we still haven't implemented get airline. Fair enough. This dot airlines dot get airline name. Now when we run it, okay, it failed because of another null pointer exception. Oh wait, airline is still. Oh yeah, right. Right, and so then now I just need to figure out why all this is. This is probably because I didn't implement the get or create airline. And so then let's see here, airline equals get airline name. If airline equals null, airline equals new airline with the airline name. Create constructor, swell, airlines, this dot airlines dot put, airline name airline, and then regardless return airline. Okay, so I'm populating the map here. Here's where I do the put. I do the get down below. I run it. Null pointer exceptions all over the place. This isn't terribly surprising, right? Because I haven't implemented anything. Ooh, still gets null.
I think you wanted airline name instead of making a new constructor.
I'm sorry, what?
If you go back to the working
Yeah.
on, I think you want to make a new airline with airline name, not a null airline name.
Where?
On line 75, I think you want airline name.
Passed an airline.
Oh, you're right. Airline name. Thank you. I don't know if that'll make a difference. We'll find out. Still get a null pointer exception. Okay, well let's debug it then. Sounds good. So let's see here. Let's debug this test. Let's see here. Is that this button? Rerun failed test. Well, I want to debug actually. Oops. I want to debug. Do me my debugger. Go, go. Okay, I don't need this much. Sorry about the screen resolution. Okay. Okay, I'm going to step into this. So that's step into. So F7. Going to do that. Going to say, what is the airline name? Oh, the airline name is null. All right. Because what is the value of airline name? Word. I forgot to change that. Oops. This is why debugging is good. You find stuff like this. This screen resolution, though, is awful. Okay. I need to update airline to be airline. What is that thing called? Yep, airline and then flight number. Okay. Once more with feeling. Run this guy again. Hey, this method is not implemented yet. It did something different. Oh, add flight. Okay. Moved. Everything's so huge. Okay, so now I'm implementing airline. You, of course, won't need to do this. Let me just do this quickly. Let's see here. Collection of flights equals new, I don't know, array list. You, of course, are using different things. And then get name. I haven't done anything with that yet. But this dot flights. Flights dot add flight. And since I'm here, I'm just going to implement get flights. Return this dot flights. Okay, do this. Null pointer exception. This time, no way, really? Huh. Okay, back to the debugger. I wonder what I've missed this time. Okay. Oops. Debug this. And I will, let's see here, step into here. Airline name. Airline. Airline is an object. Oops. 0 flights. Oh, maybe that shouldn't be a problem. Flight number is 123. Okay, add the flight. Let's take a look at the value of the airlines. Airlines has one thing from test airline to an airline. Okay, so now I'm kind of confused as to why it is blowing up. Now airline.get airline with airline name. I'm going to step into that. Return this dot airlines dot that airline. What's the value of airline? Okay, well, it's got an object. It's complaining they can't call toString, but that's okay. So let's see here. Assert that airline is not null. Oh, I wonder if it's trying to invoke the toString. I bet that's what it is, and it's blowing up. Okay, so here's what's going on. Airlines get name method returns unsupported operation exception. I'm pretty sure that if you look at abstract airline dot, oh my gosh, toString, it calls get name. So I bet what is happening is when it's reporting, I bet somewhere along the line it calls toString and blows up. So fine, let's just fix that by saying this is airline name. And we'll just say this dot airline name. Oops, this dot name equals airline name. Yeah, let's call it name instead. And I'll create that field, and then I'll have get name stuff. Oops. Return this dot name. Let's just run it one more time. Okay, so hey, I'm going through. I'm implementing my classes. What I need to do. I probably should have borrowed one of your things. Still getting an null pointer exception though. Huh. What doesn't it like? Oh, why don't I have the source code? I should have the source code for this. Download sources. And where is this? Oh, I wonder if is not null is the wrong thing to use there. That's weird. That looks like a Hamcrest matcher. Wait a second. What is this exactly? You know what? I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. I think this is a Mockito API, not a. Well, no. Why would that even work? Null value, and then not null value. Does that work instead? Aha. Okay. So this is me not using the Hamcrest API correctly, or maybe I was using the Mockito API in conjunction with Hamcrest. Saying anyway, this is how you test for null, which is unfortunate. Okay, and then this failed because expected 123 but was 42. That's probably because for whatever reason flight equals 42, so I should set this to be this dot flight number equals flight number. See, you won't have to go through all of this because you already implemented this stuff. Okay. Now the test passed. Let's walk through one more time what we did. Okay, we'll go back to our servlet. We implement what we did. The first thing that we did, we can look at all the change bars over here, right? Okay, we had to change the name of the parameters to be parameters for the the airline application instead of the dictionary application. We didn't really do much of anything with do get. We just changed some stuff to get things compiled. Well, where we did focus is do post. So what do we change? Well, we had to change the how we get the parameters. So we get the airline name, and then what the servlet does is it maintains this mapping, this database, if you will, of airlines. So it maps an airline's name to its airline, and this is what the get and post methods will consult as they work with the application. So it goes and looks at the airline name, and it then gets the airline object, and then it gets the flight number and creates a new flight and adds it to the airline. And we have a helper method like get or create airline, and then we also added this. And actually, this isn't. I'll just make this visible for testing. You have get airlines. So that's what you need to do to implement sort of like the basic stuff, right? We just did like the most simple thing you could, which was like, hey, we've got an airline here. Okay, we can create a flight, a very simple flight. Lots of other things will be broken. So let's commit where we are right now. Sure, I'll commit to master even if I have to break things. Okay, so begin morphing our example dictionary program into an airline application. And we'll commit all that in. I mean, I don't want to push it just yet because everything will break. We'll make more stuff working. Okay. Okay, so this was a unit test for put. Now let's write an integration test so that we can see that. The integration test will then be let's I don't know. Do you want to start with the? No, we should probably write the integration test for the REST client next. So this was a unit test for post. Now let's write a REST client integration test here. So let's see here. The empty server contains no dictionary entries is no longer interesting. Let's say, hey, test to define one word. Let's have this be add one flight. Okay, we will get a client, our test word and test definition. We start to do the same thing here. This is now airline name. Oops, test airline. This will be flight number. Flight number. We want this to be an int again. Int, and so this will be whatever. 3, 2, 4. Now instead of add dictionary entry, we want to say add flight to the airline and the flight number. We will change the second parameter from string to an int. That, well, we'll rename all. Actually, we can change it here, I suppose. So this will be airline name, and this will be the flight number. So this is refactoring, right? I'm using lots of renaming. I'm using lots of the tools to just get all of the nomenclature and vocabulary correct for the new domain that I'm modeling. And now this will add it. It's a little bit more difficult for us to. It's a little bit more difficult for us to validate this because we haven't implemented the get. But I don't know. Before we can really validate this, we need to be able to query. We need to be able to call get on the contents of the airline. So I don't know. Should we implement that next? Maybe we need to implement that first. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll come back to this then. So now we need to go back to the airline servlet test, and now we need to add a new test, which is. Let's see here. Here, okay. So, what is the functionality of the get REST API call? What does it do?
Return a definition or to an airline or a flight, a response.
Right. It returns. How does it represent the airline?
As
XML. Okay. So let's see here. Get. So let's see here. Yeah. Get airline as XML.
Or is that a requirement, or is that what you're just doing?
No, that's a requirement if you go and look. Yep. So yes, that's the whole idea. Is that your REST API speaks XML. So you send it in things and it returns, or rather, yeah, when you ask for, give me a bunch of, give me an airline and a bunch of flights, it returns it as XML. Okay. Now here's where we're going to need to interact with the print writer. So let's see here. Let's just do what we did up here. And actually, let's just put all this into a method. Oh, interesting. Let's just put all of this into a method, and we will call it add flight. Add flight. Yay, that makes things nice and easy. So that does all of the mock stuff, I guess. Oh, we need to get the print writer, though. Yep, okay, so that's not quite right. We need to put the print writer up here, too. And now we'll do this. Again, we'll call it print flight. Nice. So then we'll do all this down here to, oops, why doesn't that compile? Because we're not returning the servlet for some reason. Okay, so we created that flight again, that same flight. And now we want to verify. Oh, we want to capture? How do we want to do that? Because okay, so if we go back to an earlier revision of this, so if we go and look, well, actually we can just say this. We can say get, we can say show history. If we look at, if I double click, will it check it out? Yeah, here's the way it used to look. So we said verify that print line was called with this thing right here. Oh, actually, I'm not quite. That isn't what I want to do. Never mind. Because that's what was printed to the print writer when I created it. I don't care what it's printed to the print writer that's when it was created. What I care is that when I call get, I I get the value. So I was right the first time in terms of, let's see here, can I inline this? No, I don't think so. Okay, sorry. This ought to be part of this method. Because I don't need to pass this one in here. This will create the this will create the airline in the servlet. But now I want to call servlet dot do get, and I want to then, I guess I want to mock out those. Oh, I just want to mock out the one parameter of airline. Yep. And then I want to mock out the right. Oh, do I want to mock out the writer? Really, what I want to do is I want to capture. How do I do that? Let's go look it up. Mockito capture argument. So here's another argument captor. Oh yeah, argument captor. Okay, so another neat thing that Mockito can do is something called an argument captor, where it's like, oh, when this method is invoked, save off the value written to it to a thing that I can then interrogate afterwards. So, right, now I remember how to use this thing, I think. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to call, oops, not there. I'm going to call do get with request and with the response. Oops. And I want an argument captor of a string. I want to call it text written to writer equals, I'm going to say argument captor for class string. Nope. And what I want to capture is printWriter.println text written to string dot capture. Yes. Request response. Oops. Request response. Called do get, and now I want to assert that the thing that was the text written to writer dot get value contains string no, I'm not sure if this works, so I'm going to just check this out here. I'm going to say do get, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to say response dot get print writer or get writer dot println hello. Here in my servlet. So this is something that if you go and read the, I guess, is it the dependency injection? Yeah. The dependency injection lecture talks all about Mockito, and I'm almost certain I cover argument captors there because it's kind of cool stuff. What this allows you to do, is what it ought to allow me to do then, is to be able to say, hey, capture that text that was written to the print writer, even though this is all mock objects. Oops, now what doesn't it like? Add flight. Okay, post to my URL. Oh, map of. Oh, look at that. Okay, so this wants flight number to be a string. Value of flight number. I think that'll make it happy. That looks happier now. I'll run the build again. Nope. Same thing. Add flight. Oh, this is the main now. Definition seems to be an integer. Whatever. 42. I'll go back and fix that later. Nice. Airline servlet. Let's run this again. See if we get any further. Good. Oh, no argument was back to me. Have you forgotten to use argument capture in in verify? Oh, right. I can never remember the syntax here. You have to use it in a verify. Verify mock dot do something capture. Okay. That's what I have to do. I have to say verify pbw.println. I think I need to say like that, right? Verify your mock object. Oh, that's a terrible. There you go. Verify mock, do something, argument.capture. Verify my mock, print line, thing.capture. Okay, one more time. Oh, wanted but not invoked. Print writer, print line. Oh, I didn't have the when. I forgot this line right here. No, I did. Oh, I just didn't have it in the right place. Sorry. You've got to run the code under test and then verify that it was invoked. That makes sense. To me, anyway. Okay. What the hell did I just do? So here's what we want to be able to do. In this unit test, with all these mock objects, we want to say, hey, go run your get method. And what does your get method do? It writes to the print writer. Now, normally that print writer is the object associated. Well, it runs for real inside your web container. The print writer is something that is provided by the web container, by the servlet API, and you go and get that writer, and then you can call its print line, and ultimately that text is delivered back to the client, which is what we want in the real world. But this is a unit test. This is with mock objects. So we provided a mock print writer associated with the response. So when getWriter on the response is invoked, then return this mock print writer that we have. We'll call doGet. We'll actually do the work. The servlet interacts with the mock objects, doesn't know that they're mock objects, doesn't really care. And then what we want to do is we want to say, hey, listen, capture the text that was written to that writer by saying verify printWriter.println and capture that stuff. Get value here. Actually, how about this? If we call this is going to be XML, is what was written to the print writer, and then we're going to verify the thing that is returned by the returned that is written to the response contains a string hello. So this is like an important technique for being able to unit test your servlets. Okay. Okay, well now we've got get. Let's see here. I'm going to lays out. I don't think I'm going to actually write real XML because that'll take a long time and that'll be boring. But what we do want is we want to make sure that it contains the airline name and it contains the string.value of for the flight number. Okay. So now if we run this, it's going to fail because doGet doesn't do that. Right? All it wrote was hello, and that's fine. So now let's go back, and this is where you're going to use your XML dumper. So let's do the following. Okay, so we're going to get the airline. Oops, should be airline name. Equals get airline. Okay. And if airline's null, we want to throw some error, and you can write a unit test for that. I'm not going to, actually, you should write a unit test for that. I'm not going to bother right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume I have an airline, and then I am going to, create an XML dumper. No, I don't want that XML dumper. Shoot. Create class XML dumper, and I want it in the main. Nice. Implements airline dumper of an airline. Implement methods, dump. Yep, we'll get back there. Dumper equals new XML dumper. And what I'm going to then, this is going to be, okay. And then I'm going to say dumper dot dump of my airline. Now here's something pretty important. There was a question about this. I think it was on the channel Slack, and I said, "Oh, you want to refactor your XML dumper to just take a print writer, just take a writer or something." And here's why: because you're not writing to a file anymore. You're writing to just the whatever the response.getWriter returns. Oops, that's request. I want response. This print writer right here. So you'll want to refactor your, I'm just going to call that PW. You'll want to refactor your XML dumper to take the print writer and then just dump that. So what do we do? We're going to save that here. And now the dump method, this pw.println. So what you'll do is that you'll you'll create your big XML, you'll do all your DOM stuff or however you're generating your XML, and then write it out to the print writer. I'm just going to lays out by here. I'm going to call it. Well, it'll be an XML string. And my lame XML is going to be the airline dot get name followed by followed by a space, and then airline dot get flights dot iterator dot get next dot get number. There you go. Now I think my test is going to pass. Okay, why did it pass? Because what I implemented was now the text is written to the writer. Okay, that drives me crazy when IntelliJ always seems to put the class that I want off the screen. Now what my doGet does, it gets the parameter, it creates an XML dumper, and dumps the airline to it. What does my XML dumper do? Kind of dumb, but it just prints out the name of the airline. Actually, it just prints the name of the airline and then the flight number to the print writer. So what's the magic here? The magic here is all this Mockito API stuff, where you use this argument capture thing to get the text written to the stuff. But now we have our get method. Hey, okay, and that's where we wanted to be like 20 minutes ago. I understand, or maybe I don't know what is like 10 o'clock at night now. It seems like I've been talking forever. That's fine. Okay, and so now now that we've implemented get, or at least we've implemented get. Now let's call it from an integration test. So let's let's go back to local changes. And yeah, sure. Now I'll commit this stuff, and I'll say implemented the doGet method and learned how to use an argument captor. We're all better people for it. Okay, now let's go back to our REST client integration test. Okay, we wanted to add one flight, and then, yep. And so we added the flight to the client, and now instead of get definition for the airline, we're going to say, I don't know, get XML, or just get airline. Yeah, I'll get airline as XML. Airline, and so then this is going to be the XML. And we're going to assert that the XML contains string dot value of flight number, and then flight number, and then I guess it's also going to contain the airline name. Airline name. Okay, right. So we're adding the flight, and then we're getting the airline as XML. So in order to run this, I need to have my Jetty server running. So I'm going to, maven w Jetty run. So integration test requires that your servlet be running actually in the web container. So it's doing this. So far, so good. You guys all falling asleep? Or you're like, okay, I'm seeing lots of stuff go by. I'll watch it later. Stop me if you have questions. But it's a lot. Is this working? Is this okay? I can't tell. You're really quiet. Okay. It's running. Let's run this. It blew up. Got an HTTP status code of 412. Oh, I didn't run it in debug mode, but that's probably because... Okay, let's see the add flight. Oh, look at it. It's got all the wrong things. We want airline, and then we want flight number. Now, I'm changing client-side code because I'm in the REST client, so I don't need to restart my my Jetty. Got a status code of 500. Probably because something blew up on... Oh, yeah, blew up over here. Huge long stack trace, null pointer exception and dump because there's no airline probably specified. So then, oh yeah, look at that. Airline. And then here, I don't want to parse the dictionary. I'm just going to return the content, which is the XML in this case. Oops. Is the XML in this case. So I have to change, I changed the behavior of the server, and I have to change the behavior of the client to match it. Wow, it passed. This gets really easy, right? And this is why I'm stressing unit testing the servlet. Trust me on this one. You get the servlet is like all the real guts of it. So you get the servlet working, and you're kind of 80% of the way there. And now it's just a matter of making the rest of the stuff work. So this is cool. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that then. So okay, let's check this stuff in. Version control, and so then, okay, updated the REST client to work with the new servlet functionality. We'll commit that. Okay, and now let's look at our project 5 integration test. This is the command line. Okay, so that's all cool. Remove dictionary entries, whatever. No command line arguments. Don't really care. Where is the one where we actually add a definition? Great. So test 4 is, well, let's call this add flight. And sort of the same thing again, right? We're going to have the airline name. The word becomes the airline name. Airline. Probably want a different one. Well, it'll delete it, so whatever. And then flight number, and this will be an int that, and we'll call it flight number, and then we'll call this, I don't know, 567. Here, when we invoke it on the command line, isn't it interesting how it's like the same thing over and over again because we're translating between things that take strings like a main method and then like the REST API and stuff. Well, maybe it's not interesting, but whatever. It's an observation. Okay, and so what do? It's too small. So we invoke it. Okay, the first thing we do is we invoke it with the airline name and the flight number, and that will add it. And so that returns status of 0 and make sure. I don't want anything written to standard out. Maybe defined word as. No, I don't want that. I don't care about that anymore. Oops. Now I want to invoke main with just the airline. That's going to return the XML, and so then XML. I want to assert that it contains the airline name, contains string airline name, and that it contains the string value of the flight number. And then that's not interesting anymore. Or maybe it is, but I don't really care. Oops, since I'm missing some these things. I'm going to run this. I expect it to blow up because I haven't changed the project 5 yet. Oh, interesting. Oh, it's got that other... No, I haven't... let's see here. Let's run this thing, which I think will delete all the mappings. Maybe. Let's delete all the mappings and the... Okay, that ran. And now, if I run this thing again... Oh, wow. Where did it get the airline 42? So let me localhost 8080 airline flights airline equals, what did I call that thing? What was the airline name? Capital A airline. Oh, it returns 42. Where does it get the 42 from?
Did you ever change the behavior of that delete function? Like maybe it's just deleting
Yeah.
something else.
Maybe. Let's see here. Delete. Do delete. It calls clear on airlines. Oh, where does it get? Because I mean, it looks like it's printing out. Wait, airline. Oh no. Wait, what is this? So do you get airline : airline 42 looks like it's printing out the contents of the map. Which why is it doing that? Oh. This must have something to do with what I'm doing in the Project 5 main. Let's fix this then. I bet there's something wrong here. Host name port string, that's correct, and we'll say air name line all occurrences. We'll call it. Well, no, I don't want that. Airline name. Definition then becomes flight number. Oops, just the code occurrences. Flight number. It parses all that stuff. If host name is null, port string is null. Okay, it gets the port, gets the client on the host name and port. If airline equals null, airline name equals null, then print all of them. I wonder if that get all dictionary entries is. It looks like this thing's being called actually. That's surprising. Did I mess this up? Oh, interesting. Okay. So I wonder if, so let's just change this to do the right things. Okay, so we don't want airline, so if airline's null, it's required, let's just say it's required. So we'll say usage, missing airline. And then otherwise, if flight number equals null, this is not something that's interesting. So usage, missing flight number, maybe this is what's going on here. Oh yeah, no, look, add flight 42. Oh yeah, look at that. Whoops. Okay. Integer parsent. See, it was doing exactly what I told it to do. Computers, erg. Yeah, nope. And then message equals post. Okay, post that. Otherwise, oh, actually no. Here is I didn't do the right thing there. Here I want to refactoring XML equals client dot get airline is XML airline name, and then system dot out dot print line. Okay, well actually here is where you're going to want to convert your XML into pretty print, but I'll let you guys figure out how to do that. Okay. Now let's try it again. Oh, oops. There's no message anymore. Oops. Okay, and now let's try running this again. Let me close out. Let me close out. Let me remove all the mappings again. Actually, did that actually work? Yep. It did, and so now I will run the project 4 again. Error test 4. Yay, and it passed. Okay, so you see what we had to do there. We had to, now, okay, yep, in order to get the project 5 IT to pass, we had to change project 5 to have it call the REST APIs in the right way. And so then, so what I've done right now is I've implemented the ability to create a flight with a number. And so then, what all y'all need to do then is just add the other things, make sure that everything is, and then so you can incrementally add each one. However, you'll probably, I'm sure your flights expect all of the data there, so you have to comment some stuff out or sort of be tolerant of some errors until things get working. So that's what. Let me see here. Updated the command line client command line program to work with the new server functionality. So, that's how I would approach this program. I would start by doing some TDD in my servlet, and we had to both implement, the parts of the do post, in order to be able to create flights. And then we shortly realized, we also need to get the flights, so we need to implement do get. And then once I had like that little bit working, then I said, okay, well let's make sure that we can get everything working end to end. And so then we turned to our integration test, wrote our REST client integration tests, which actually turned out to be relatively straightforward. Just a matter of really refactoring code to call, we're changing the names and things like that. And then finally, we worked on our Project 5 main method to change that so that it wrote the things that we expected to standard out, which isn't exactly what your program is going to do. Here again, you need to take that XML, convert it into the pretty format, and then print that out. Yeah.
So just general questions on the specification. So when we're using the URLs, say to search, like when you give an airline, airport, the source and destination.
Yeah.
That should return XML.
Yeah.
And then when you're using a command line and you specify search, it should be pretty primitive.
Yes.
Okay, so basically URL, XML, command line, pretty primitive.
Exactly. So, right, I mean, the REST API, the client is a computer, and so let's send it computer stuff that it understands, like XML. The person, the entity using the command line is a person, so let's show it something the person can understand, like pretty print. Okay. Anything you want me to review again? Anything else that's like, yeah?
So say that I send a post request.
Yep.
And it's missing an argument.
Yes.
What status code should I be giving back?
I'm pretty sure I have an example of,
12.
I don't know, missing required parameter. So I use a 412. Yep. That isn't part of the specification, so just do something that makes sense.
As long as it's a 400 code.
Yes. 400 series is fine. So his question was, post, there are required parameters like airline and then all the flight information and stuff. What should be the behavior of your servlet when one of those is missing? And so what I do is I've got this. Hey, if airline is required, if airline equals null, then I call this missing airline, missing required parameter, and I pass in the HTTP response and the parameter, the name of the parameter that's missing, and I format it here using the messages. You can do the same, and then I send the error back with the response as SC, which is servlet code. Precondition failed, which is a HTTP 412. Yep, error code. And you should write unit tests for that. You'll need it for code coverage, but it's also you want to make sure that that's how your servlet is invoked. And here again, that's great for that kind of stuff should be in unit tests. Integration tests are too heavyweight for that. Plus, we'll need to figure out. Well, I suppose it's not too hard to put together that. Actually, it might be hard to put together that particular request if your REST client is well behaved, because your REST client will expect values for all of this stuff, and it would be reasonable for it to do sort of like null checking and stuff. Yeah, REST. Yeah. Not so much. Okay, yeah, as in you're all asleep, and I get it. It's been a long day, and this was a lot of words. So I think the thing that was new tonight that I encourage you to go back and study some more so that you grok it was this thing with the argument captor, which actually I should probably integrate that into the example in the first place. Yeah, the argument captor right here. Super powerful, and it's what you need to do. And if you just find yourself copying and pasting this and I don't know what it does, but it works, that's fine. It's kind of advanced stuff, but it's super, super powerful because it lets you write tests for your servlet. It lets you write unit tests for your servlet that run nice and fast. You don't need to be starting and stopping your web container all the time as you're developing your servlet. Okay, good deal. Okay. Sorry, you have a question? Yeah.
Those when statements is how you put the arguments for the dependent.
Yeah.
Request and response is the dependencies for servlet.
Right. I mean, so you've got these mock objects. Like response is this, HTTP server, this mock servlet response up here. The when method sort of configures that mock object to say, hey, listen, when the getWriter method is invoked on my mock object, then here's the behavior that I want it to perform. Right? Wacky stuff and implemented using crazy reflection and everything. The implementation you need to worry about, but what you get out of it is like this. It's kind of like programmable object, or like create me. It is magic, right? It's like create me this magic object that provides the HTTP servlet response interface. Makia's like, okay, here you go, and it's like, okay, well, here's how I want that object to behave. So when getWriter is invoked, return this print writer, and what's that print writer? Well, it's my mock print writer. And then I can do things like, okay, I'll go interact with those mock objects, and I can interrogate them and say, hey, you have to call verify, but whatever. Listen, verify that yes, print line was invoked. Oh, and by the way, please, capture or take that value that was captured and then put it into this argument captor. And now you've got that, and I can say, great, that was the XML that the servlet code wrote to my print writer, and now I can assert things on it. Yeah, right. Kind of. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Enough for tonight on this. It's all actually. I'll push it to my GitHub now. Actually, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's broken. Probably. I don't want to push broken code. So let me give me like a couple minutes to fix everything. You don't need to watch me delete code. And take a break, and we'll talk about what we do next. Yeah, thanks. I'll record me deleting code because I'm sure that'll be fascinating. What doesn't work? Yeah. How do you test the what? Sorry. Post. The index.html is completely for you to work with if it helps. So if you're like, wow, I want to be able to test it through that form, go ahead. Not a required part of the assignment though.
Okay, it's just only for the test, unit test. Through the unit
yes,
test,
so I mean, right. I don't have any tests that exercise the index.html.
Switch it over to Android.
after that, or
I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, please come back. That's what I'm saying.
so is this all recorded?
Sorry?
Is this all recorded?
Yes, this is all recorded, and the code will be up on GitHub as soon as I delete enough code to get things to pass.
So it's like when we do post request, so that request goes to server, it fetch the results and then put it into the XML format using dumper and return it. That is what.
Yep, and that's what I tried to sort of do here, how I created a very simple XML dumper that doesn't really dump XML.
The XML dumper where it comes into picture.
Yep.
So I understood it.
Yeah, right. That's what you need to. Yeah. So you'll get the you maintain airline objects in your servlet, and then when the get method then takes that airline, sends it to the XML dumper, and the dumper then dumps to the print writer associated with the HTTP response, as opposed to like print writer that's wrapped around file writer, which is like probably what you did for projects, project 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Everything seems to work. So let's see here. Maven W clean verify. Yeah.
So, in the specification, there are like 2 URLs. So one is like only with airline name, and one is with source and destination.
Yes.
So when we give only airline,
Yep.
so the first one,
Yep.
so it has to do the get
Of all, and it gets all flights.
all flights. So when with the post, how do we the URL? How would the URL for the post would be?
It's the same URL. It's just different. It's a different HTTP verb, and it has more parameters.
Okay.
Yep. Nice. Okay, so that passed. So then let's see here. Delete broken tests. Sorry, what?
I appreciate the loading music and the download.
Well, because I totally fast forwarded through all that, right? Because that was like
I thought it
4 minutes of.
was the video. So
Yeah, right. Not used to that. Yeah, well, a new version of Camtasia comes with some presumably DRM free music.
Well, so we know that the max or the stack is not going to have the How do you exactly? Oh, that's true. It's not in there, but you're trying to hit an operation. So if we go back and look at
Yay. Okay, and that's it.
let's